Till yesterday, I had really no idea what I was going to say today. Given the very tight time constraints, I felt defeated because Graham and myself have been exchanging a great deal of correspondence since last summer and have amassed a great quantity of words, and I thought, how am I going to present something about what we've been doing in, I think I worked out I might have 210 seconds, because each, if it's a twosome, we get kind of 2.5 minutes each. But then I happened, as good luck would have it, I happened to be reading Rebecca Solnit's introduction to the Best American Essays 2019, which was published on Tuesday. And some of what Rebecca Solnit says just chimes in so well, it resonates so well with what we've been doing, that I thought, okay, I'll start with a quotation, with her words rather than my words. So here's a quotation from Rebecca Solnit, Best American Essays 2019. "The essayist's job," says Solnit, "is to gather up the shards or map them where they are, to find the pattern out there, or to make one with words about the disconnections and mysteries. This reading of the world is a form of travel, questing and searching and gathering. Essays are restless literature, trying to find out how things fit together, how we can think about two things at once, how the personal and the public can inform each other, how two overtly dissimilar things share a secret kinship, how intuitive and scholarly knowledge can cook together, how discovery can be a deep pleasure. Essays are a meeting ground, a place where the experiential and the categorical, the first-hand and the research, converse, question, or just dance in each other's arms for a while, where the patterns and phenomena we thought we knew take on new meanings and depths, or turn out to be strangers we are meeting for the first time." When I read that, I thought, Solnit's been eavesdropping on our emails, because there are so many points of connection there. Because what Graham and myself have been doing, we've been looking at two overtly dissimilar things, namely drawing and essay writing, and discovering that they share a secret kinship. And we've been exchanging shards from each other's creative practice, and mapping them and putting them into patterns and, considering them, and generally simply bouncing ideas off each other from the point of view of drawing and from the point of view of essay writing, which I've certainly found really exciting. And Solnit talks endlessly about the pleasure of discovery and the surprises that are in that. And again, that's something that I found. I think we've exchanged somewhere in the region of 30 or 40,000 words worth of emails at this stage. You'll be relieved that I'm not going to refer to a great wodge of paper and kind of, try and summarize that kind of quantity of stuff. Our chapter for Imagined Spaces is called Line Drawing, and it tries to give some sense of the flavour of that conversation, although it remains, I think, a little bit of a concern that what you put down in a formal chapter within a limit of 6,000 words, it can only do so much, and some of the voltage of the exchange is probably lost. And I think that's simply inevitable. That's part of what happens when you constrain something. I think all I need to say at this juncture is that what we've tried to do in the chapter, we tend to see the exchange we've had as a kind of long, meandering walk. And on that walk, we've come to various viewpoints that seem to give particularly good perspectives on the nature of drawing and essaying. And the chapter is structured around 4 of those viewpoints, and if I just tell you what they are, then I'll shut up and hand over to Graham. The 4 are conveying the extraordinary nature of the ordinary, being in the moment, tracing consciousness, and what we call heretical / peripheral. Now, I could go into endless detail about all of these, but clearly that's not going to be possible. I could explain where we got the title line drawing from, how it links to the title of the conference in our Arbroath last summer, but I think time is against me, so I will hand over.
Yeah, I was struggling for what to say as well. So then, my background, I suppose, I think of myself as a kind of creative nomad. I've been all over the place in terms of practice, I suppose, and still think of myself as a sort of a kind of veteran beginner in all of those things. I've been doing them all for years, but I still feel I'm at the beginning. And Christie's nicely introduced an idea that I'll probably hang on to, which comes from a John Berger idea about animals and dogs. And a lovely image that I haven't been able to shake off since I read it was that he feels that humans have taken on dogs not as pets or as kind of comfy, warm things to have around you, but actually because they've got great utility. They have senses that are beyond ours. They hear before we hear things, they smell things. So by having dogs as companions, they sort of extend our sensory range. So they're a fantastic advantage in an evolutionary sense. And it occurs to me that dogs are in the moment more than humans are in a way. They live completely in the moment. And we take some of that from them in a way, their innocence in that comes to us. And I feel that that's what every medium that we're involved with, in a way, acts as. It's a sort of in between us and the world. It's between our inner lives and the external phenomena that we experience. And so, for me, I've always returned to drawing. Drawing does this for me in a very big way that I feel much more in the moment. And I think I had a strong connection with Hospital Field because 40 years ago, I went there as a student. I had a residency at Hospital Field, so we were drawing all the buildings and so on. And while we were there last year, we had some spare time, and I tried to find some of the spaces that I'd remembered drawing. So I made some quick sketches, but then when I got home, I dug up the old ones that I'd done 40 years before. So I just thought I'd sort of share some of these as a kind of starting point. But this while doing these and meeting Chris and reading some of his stuff, I think one of your pieces was in the previous anthology, and then I began to realise there was a lot of connections with this being in the moment with your companion medium and how that was enabling you to see things, but also in seeing them, you were presenting something that an external person could make the walk back to your source, if you like. That was I found a really strong connection between the way Chris was looking at the world and how I felt I was looking at the world through drawing. Some of these aren't exactly the same location, but I found it really interesting going back to my old drawings and the journey from then to now and the connections between things. So something has remained absolutely constant about the way that I feel and use drawings to actually be in the moment, in a place, in time and so on. And I felt really strongly with Chris's writing that there was the discovery of things through the medium that were then brought to one's own conscience, first of all, but then to someone else's through that medium. So the medium, where it sits, is really important, I suppose. That's a lot of the thoughts that have been going on through this, and being asked to kind of put these down for this has been really fascinating as well. I'll just share some of the process I think that we went through, but all these words, these strings of emails, I decided to stick them all together. I cut and paste them into a Word document, and then I realised I couldn't even read that on a screen. So there's fantastic things you can do with good printers these days. You can actually create a booklet out of them. So I made a booklet of our emails and shared that with Chris, and I think we both enjoyed that physical process of working with books. In fact, there were a few in the end, and I brought them along with me actually. But Chris, I'm going to share something, you're not going to like this, but Chris sent me a draft of his. We'd both been given the brief, or we'd had the sort of rough brief, Chris stayed here, and we both got working on it. Chris sent through a draft first, and it was brilliant to have this, but what was terrifying was that every now and again there would be a little gap in it, and it would say, Graham to write 500 words, and it just caused shivers up my spine. But in response, I suppose I printed that as well. I made a booklet of that left gaps in pages, and then began to scribble my little thoughts on it. And this was a kind of way I've written notes for decades now, I suppose, which is just a stream of consciousness writing, but then to go back over it with paint or with colour and actually see if there are patterns and shapes in it. And actually, because when I go back through notes like that are blank, I don't see anything, but somehow colouring them in some ways brings out structures that then go into written pieces. Anyway, so after that, I think we merged our things together, and no, it's been a fantastic process.